Welcome back to CoolCouve. My name is David Benedictus.
And I'm Daria Ruggles. Welcome back.
Today we're going to have a conversation with a local hero again. And local heroes can be your neighbor or even your mayor. And we want to find out about what's going on in the city by speaking with Mayor Ann today.
Welcome, Mayor Ann. We're so happy you are with us. Our first woman mayor who is probably both your neighbor and our elected official. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, one of the things that I have to say is so many people have commented on how well that you've handled the whole COVID-19 issue and how well you've stayed in communication and all of your wonderful and warm recommendations. How has that been for you?
Well, for everyone, it's been an absolute challenge. But as we look at it, we were trying to turn this into a more positive opportunity and what can we accomplish during this obviously very difficult time. So when the restaurants and all the bars and taverns and fitness centers and bowling alleys and theaters came to us and they were closed, we thought, okay, we can do this. We can do big things. We can take this challenge forward. So we started the idea of street eats, and we actually stole it from Portland. How do we go outside and eat? And Portland has been doing this, but if you've traveled around the world, you've been outside on the streets of Paris or Bend, Oregon, or anything else. And the opportunity to eat on the sidewalk or to take that parking spot and cover it and eat outside, what a great opportunity. So we created street eats. And then we put it on our app. So we had an app on our phone to find out which restaurants we could go outside and eat with. But then it was also, how do we run in, order something from our car, they bring it to us, kind of like an old A&W drive-in, and then drive off. And so that was part of street eats. And we put up those little signs that said parking for pickup, quick, a 5-minute pickup. So all of that turned out great. Next piece was, we were laying off Parks and Rec staff, but we also had all of these different opportunities where we needed extra staff in a different area. So we had a safe park where RVs and trailer houses could park, homeless individuals who needed a safe place. And sure enough, our Parks and Rec staff cross-trained to go and work there.
Oh.
Then our Parks and Rec staff cross-trained to go do COVID testing, and then vaccination sites. And then we were waiving business license surcharge fees and all of these opportunities that we thought, we can do this, but we need the community to help us. Lots of people called in and told us what we needed to do. And staff was so wonderful about switching gears. Being, whether it's flexible, pivoting, all of those terms, how can we solve this problem in a new way? And that's what we've been doing.
Talk about some nice silver linings, more than I thought.
Yes. More than we thought we could do.
Well, one of the things that people were always talking about, because it was so in there, so present, was the growth in homelessness camps,
Right.
the city. And there's been a conversation going on about homelessness and how to address that in the multi-level approaches and tiered approaches. And for many years that we've been working on this, but it seemed to become more visible with the pandemic. And to my eye, that reminded me that there were a lot of people just living on the edge before the pandemic. And this separated them from having this made them houseless at that point.
Yes, it did. It put them over the edge. You're absolutely right, Dave. They were on the edge. They spent their day in a C-Tran bus riding around, or they spent their day at the library or in the park or in different public areas, city hall, county building. And when everything closed down, where could they go?
Right.
Where could they go? Then the CDC guidelines came out and said to all of us, states, counties, and cities, public agencies, if you have people who are homeless, don't move them, because we don't want this to spread.
Oh, okay.
If you don't have a safe place for them to go, you cannot move them. So when they were in their RVs and trailer houses, we could take them out to old Evergreen Transit and give them a place out there. They were separate, they were safe, but we didn't have any place for tents. And we had people who couldn't leave their tents without things getting stolen or whatever. We didn't have a safe place for tents, so we couldn't move them. So what we found is that individuals started looking for open spaces, on-ramps and off-ramps of I-5, 500, 14, all of those different opportunities where the government owns land. And I'm going to put my tent. We have no place for them to go. And so the governor gave directives to all of the agencies, including Washington State Department of Transportation, and said, if you don't have a place for them to go, you cannot move them. Now, that meant that they were more visible. And so they have been on our ramps. They have been behind City Hall. It was nothing for us to come out of City Hall late at night in the wintertime, and they were around City Hall. We could keep them out of parks and some other areas where we have the no camping opportunities. But that became a very visible problem to the community that they weren't aware of.
Right.
And so that's what we have been struggling with, working with, because we want them to be safe and we want them to have sanitation conditions, toilets, hand washing stations, dumpsters. It was the first time the county stepped in with a shelter idea. We have a couple small shelters around the city, but they asked a motel if they could lease it using state money, because we had disabled, elderly, seniors, people who needed to be quarantined, people who needed to be isolated because they were COVID risk. And they put them in the motel and they stayed safe, worked on whatever medical issues they might have had. They were fed, they had a room, a toilet, a shower, and they could recover. And that was new to us, to see a non-congregate, instead of all bunched together, way to keep people safe and healthy during the COVID. So that led the county to taking that next step. And that was to apply for a 3-year grant with the Department of Commerce to buy a hotel. So they bought the Howard Johnson Hotel, renamed it to Bertha Kane Baugh. It's a transitional shelter, not for you to stay there forever, but again, for women, elderly, disabled, to be able to come into a non-congregate, meaning a separated room, and get your social services, get your housing assessment, any medical needs, any treatments you need, and start transitioning to more permanent housing. They were successful with it down at the Motel 6, and they'll be successful with it up at the Bertha Baugh. So it was, if there's a positive side to this, that's another one that made a dramatic change.
It's lovely to hear how much your inherent desire to uphold people's dignity and their ability to get clean, wash their clothes and all of that. And speaking of places, so I understand that the city is in negotiations with the library, so we probably won't have the navigation center anymore. Do you have any idea that, I guess the money is going to be applied? Do we have any idea how that's going to be used?
Right, the funds. So if you'll recall, the Vancouver School District is building a new elementary, an arts innovation magnet school. Well, the contractor broke the water main.
Yeah.
And all the water went into the library basement and ruined
Right,
everything.
That's a million gallons.
So we had an empty building and the library needed to start getting things out and drying things out and everything else. So we gave them the opportunity to use the navigation center. And as they were there looking around, they're, whoa, this is a great building.
Mm.
And the conversation then led to, you know, the building they were in was much too large than what they needed, but the navigation center was smaller and it had ramps and it had better parking and it had a number of different things. And so the negotiations and the conversation started, and the city manager shared that with city council, you know, kind of that, what if, what do you think about this? Is this a possibility? And we said, yes, continue this conversation. Let's take a look at this. So the library moving to the navigation center, buying that, and then moving out of the old headquarters. And that's going to be gutted with all the insurance money from the water problem anyway. So if that's going to be, and the old library is our building. It has great bones because they built it to hold books, and think about the hundreds of thousands of pounds of books that it held. So if that's going to be remodeled, that could be a community building of some sort, an incubator for businesses or an incubator for arts or all of the above. We'll go back out to the community and ask them, what do you want to do with this great building right there on Mill Plain next to a beautiful elementary school? And then the money that we will receive from the sale of the navigation center stays in homelessness.
Okay, good.
Money came for that project. It'll stay in homelessness. Some of it will go to the Bertha Baugh to help buy that building. And then we will keep that money in that category so that we can make those life changes. And people donated to the navigation center, and we went and talked with them and said, this is what's going on. What do you think about this conversation? We got thumbs up from all of those folks. And so we promised them we will keep this money in homelessness and help move that project forward.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I'm always going back to people congregating. I'm always impressed by human beings' resilience and need for community. They'll create it wherever they can, right? Be safe and come together.
Yeah.
And so when I was passing those areas you were describing, I would see people doing like car camping. I mean, there would be a car there, and then they'd have a tent, and then there'd be another car, and then a community of 10 or 15 tents or whatever. That's
right.
So it became very tribal in terms of people not wanting to be. I'm assuming people feel much safer being with other people than on their own.
They do, Dave. And what I have found, because it was shortly after that in this year that we had started what we call the HART team, H-A-R-T. It was the homeless resource team. We had Officer Tyler Chavers. He was our neighborhood police officer, but he became part of the HART team. It took us a while, but we found Jamie Spinelli in our community and asked Jamie to help be that resource coordinator. But as they have been out and about, and as I have been out and about working with the different encampments, that is exactly what I am seeing. Just as all of us look for a home in a neighborhood that we feel comfortable with, so do people who do not have typical stick-built homes. They congregate with people they feel comfortable with. And then think about what it's like if you're homeless. You set up your tent, you put everything inside your tent, and you zip it up. If you're out at, if you're out at Battleground Lake, you kind of have that feeling it's going to be safe and you can go on a hike around Battleground Lake. That's not necessarily the idea that happens in an encampment. It's very often someone unzips the tent, takes what they want and takes it with them while you're at work or at school or at anything else. And that's what we were finding. When we did the point in time count a couple of years ago, we found young people who were at Clark College as students. They weren't from Portland. That federal form that you have to fill out, what was your last address? And this young man who had a beautiful tent up against the hedge said, well, right down the street, because I lived with my grandma and she died. And I'm a student at Clark College. And he wanted to finish, but think about his security. Can he leave everything, zip up, run over to class, and then come back after he's done his homework, does everything online, hopefully at Clark College? Oh, then during COVID, can you imagine? How do you go to class when the college is closed? Where's the electricity for you to plug in and recharge so you can do your homework?
Well, it used to be at the library, but
Yeah,
can't go.
library's closed. Yeah.
Library's closed too.
But they find their friends, and one person is the camp host to help secure the area while others leave to go get food, go to work, whatever. And that's what Jamie Spinelli and Tyler Chavers are doing now with the Vancouver homelessness plan. Ideally, finding a group of people in one secure area, fenced off, with a camp host who helps with all of the safety, toilets, hand washing stations, dumpsters, no rats.
Yeah.
You can sleep, you can leave your stuff, you can go to work, you can go to social services, you can go to the VA campus, get what you need. And when you come back, everything will be there. And that is what we're looking forward to.
I've heard wonderful stories about Tyler Chavers. He actually volunteered, I understand, to do, he likes working with the homeless community.
He does.
He's
He
got
does.
that personality, yeah.
Yeah, he was our neighborhood police officer for District 1. And he just has a great way about him. A neighborhood police officer is carefully chosen by the chief of police.
Mhm.
It's an officer who likes to interact with people, who can be a good listener, who knows the regulations, but also knows how to work with people and those regulations to make things a little bit better. It's an officer that gets out of their car and they go into the businesses, or they go into neighborhood association meetings, or you'll find them walking Main Street or 162nd Street or 192nd Street. They might go into a restaurant and sit down with a group of business people and talk about graffiti in the alley. That's a very unique opportunity for an officer. And at first, neighborhood police officers was a very new idea and a little scary because it took very different training. Now, whenever there's an opening, they flock to that. What a great opportunity to be with people who enjoy being with you, being with people who you may have had a terrible day, but you need to grab the crime statistics and walk into a neighborhood association and talk about speeding through the neighborhood, or catalytic converters being stolen out from underneath your car, or car prowling, and how to educate them about crime prevention and the bushes in front of your front door and all those different things. And we know our NPOs families. Some of them, we know what their best foods are, what kind of pies they like, what their middle name is, what their birthdays are. They are a wonderful asset, and that's what community policing is in Vancouver, and we are so happy with it.
Well, that's exciting because I mean, I feel like these are two things that we're doing better than our sister city to the south, you know, in terms of taking care of the people experiencing homelessness and having a little bit of a different view about policing and being able to create community. Do we also have, or is there a plan? You know, David is a mental health professional, 40 years. So do we have some of those, that kind of training as well as going into the community in the way that you've spoken?
Oh, yes, but we also received a grant and have mental health individuals ride along with our police officers, especially when they're called to an incident where we believe that there is an identified issue, such as a mental health issue that needs that cooperation, where, and that's the tough part, is when you call CRESA 911 and you report it, to make sure that we're able for the officers to respond and to bring up those additional individuals who are trained in special and mental health issues and work cooperatively with identifying the individual, what the issue is, how to take care of it, how to respond to it, and hope that we're not dealing with weapons of any sort. And that's that special training that our officers have been going through all time and time again. That de-escalation training happens with every single officer when they go up north for their initial training. But it's a continuation, and they do it every single day in a number of different ways. When you think about it, if you are, let's say you're a store clerk and someone is not happy with the coupon, that is the person that has given you a coupon for ice cream or whatever, there's an angry person right there. That person works through the problem. And an officer does that at every single incident, whether it's a traffic incident or a call to domestic violence, which is up, a call for lost child, a lost senior, think of all the different calls that an officer is called on. An officer has to understand from that 911 what is needed, how to approach it, and bring the temperature down a little bit and help solve the problem on every single call. People don't call the police when it's a good day. Something's wrong. Every time the police are called, something is wrong. So an officer is always there to help solve a problem. So they continue to get training on all of the different issues, the different types of mental illnesses that we are identifying. The Community Task Force on Policing is the group of individuals that have been working now, oh my gosh, I think it's almost been a year. If you'll recall, we had 4 shootings, boom, 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 boom. And we said, something's up, let's figure this out. So we called for a special investigation. And that body, the PERF, P-E-R-F, it's a professional organization, evaluated everything, all of the policies, all of the actions, and brought forward over 80 recommendations. Some of them were small recommendations, changing pronouns on reports and different report writings. Some were significant. And those are the recommendations that the Community Task Force on Policing have been trying to understand and to change the policies that the chief has with all of the officers and the commanders, lieutenants and sergeants and such. One of those is the camera program. And people usually think, oh, it's just the body camera.
Oh, the camera program, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just the body camera.
No.
It's the camera in the car and the camera in the back of the car. So it's a whole camera program. And people say, just turn it on. Okay. When do you turn it off? Or who do you give it to? Can anyone ask for everything? Well, unfortunately, we have people in our communities that will ask for everything so they can use that for entertainment. Violence against children, nudity, domestic violence. So we will need to, we're setting up the protocols so that when someone asks for that footage, we have hired individuals according to court and rulings, what can be blurred, what sounds or can be muted, So it's not entertainment for someone. The prosecuting attorney has some regulations, will have regulations, will negotiate all of the body camera policies with the guild because these are working conditions. And we'll come up with it, but we've sent everything out to request for vendors because we want vendors to be able to bring us the cameras that turn on and turn off and download easily. I don't want an officer, think about it, an officer has been recording for 8 hours. Does an officer have to sit and download 8 hours worth of tape before that officer can go home? What do you have available to download this? Do you download, does it automatically download? Do you have to put it in and download it? Can you write your report before or after you view the download? All of those different things.
Wow.
We're working through it. We're making great progress. The guild wants body cameras. They want the car cameras. They want the camera program. And so they opened up the opportunity for negotiations and they brought it forward. In the state of Washington, they don't have to negotiate. In the state of Washington, we have binding arbitration. If the two sides don't agree, an arbitrator is selected. The arbitrator makes the final decision. So that's the encouragement for the two groups to come together and agree. And that has worked out for us. So we are in the middle of all of those conversations and looking forward to having the entire program, all of the protocols, everything ready, get them in the car, get them on the bodies, train everyone how to use them, how to download them, how to safeguard them, hire the individuals to edit or blur the faces or body parts, those types of things. And then practice with them so you know how much, because an officer already carries 35 pounds on their body now with all of the equipment. So this is going to be another 2 pounds. It wouldn't be much, but now we're getting close to 40 pounds of equipment. And then implement it by probably March, April of next year. So we're about 11 months out.
In reading about that process, as you said, it's not only just having the body camera, but it's having buying the storage for it and keeping that, but also hiring the personnel to interact with the community and decide what goes out and what stays in and what the reason would be that the person was asking for that documentation, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And, so that's all needs to be parsed along with all those wonderful communication skills you were talking about, right? So.
Yeah, so that's structural as well as procedural. And then when you're talking about like the community policing, the idea of building communities. So is part of this retraining this acknowledgement of what's been happening nationally in terms of identifying the us versus them and the systemic racism as well?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's all tying together very nicely. We have a wonderful working group, a lot of individuals, LULAC, NAACP, Asian American, Pacific Islanders. We have people from the Sikh community who are involved in the diversity conversations. A lot of individuals who are giving their feedback, their input in moving all of these processes forward.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
So I heard, I wasn't sure if this was the Vancouver police chief has a background in social psychology, I believe, and is yes, interested in looking at new hires and training through that lens about what character and resiliency people would have in a high stress position like that. That's pretty encouraging, yeah.
And it's very unique, Dave. Chief McIlvaine has his doctorate. He did not come up through law enforcement by way of military. So many in law enforcement do, but not Chief McIlvaine. And so we're very fortunate that he takes a look at the community and this career with a different mindset. And it is nothing for the chief to be in the middle of any number of community activities and feel very comfortable, whether he is running for Special Olympics or he's in the middle of an NAACP meeting answering questions or responding to LULAC on a number of different concerns that he may have, or showing up at the Sikh temple to give the individuals that opportunity to see that he's just a normal person and that he eats curry just like the rest of us.
And he also recognizes that community as being part of.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
We, in fact, the chief wasn't available, but he sent Assistant Chief Mori to the Sikh temple with me this weekend. And we brought the special agent in charge of the Portland FBI to the temple at the service. But we also sat down with the leadership, the men and women of the Sikh community, and we talked about the hate crimes that they are experiencing, that they've heard of, and their concerns, and how to address that, and how to work with them. All of this is a very sad time. And there is fear in our community, and fear of a lot of different things. We don't want them to have fear of our law enforcement. We want them to report the crime so that we can act on it. We want them to tell us who, what, where, when, why, and how, so that law enforcement can go after that and work to take care of it, to correct it, to minimize it, to help avoid it, to take it to court, to do whatever needs to be done. And not just for the Asian Pacific Islanders, our Hispanic community, our African American, our Sikh, our Muslim friends. That shouldn't happen in our community. It is happening. And what a great opportunity for the city, the police department, and the FBI to sit down. And Paneet Singh brought us together to meet the leaders of the community to say, we are here. Tell us how we can help you.
That's lovely.
How can we work together? If you're afraid to come to us, will you go to each other? Do you have one person who will come and be a part of that solution? So if you want to share it with Paneet, and Paneet will share it with us, and then we'll go after it, because they're fearful. And they wear a turban and they have a long beard, and people may not understand. So we're trying to help.
So speaking of feeling that encouragement, a lot of people do feel disconnected from, the political process or being heard. We're very interested to know, because you started out as an educator, and then you were a community leader. And then all of a sudden, when you're an elected official, they call you a politician. So what was,
and with that affect too.
tell us a little bit about your journey and what you want people to know about their own voices.
Well, I think I learned more politics teaching than remember, I was teaching middle school. So you have raging hormones. They're there. And I was teaching mathematics, not a favorite subject to a lot of people. And so when you think about all the things that we do on city council, it's all about relationships, working together, trying to solve problems. So some of those problem solving strategies I would teach in the pre-algebra class or the algebra class are the same problem solving strategies we use here in the city. Sometimes we start with the problem and work backwards to see how did this start and could we have chosen a different path. But I think for the most part, it is all about relationships. It's that relationship you have and that you develop so that you understand, you listen before the times get tough, before things get ugly. Did you have a relationship with this person? When during COVID, there was some tense times. There were a lot of misconceptions that the city had the power to do everything. We had the power to set the rules, to set the guidelines, to open the businesses, to tell people they didn't have to wear masks, that they didn't have to be vaccinated. And they thought we had all of the power and the authority to do everything. Those people that we have been working with for decades and are involved in their city could ask those questions in a different way and ask, do we need to follow which guidelines? Are we in phase 1 or phase 2? Where do I get the help? So it's on this website. This is what the governor has said. Building that relationship eased the stress, and they said, what do I need to do? What do we need to do as a community to move to phase 2? Help me open up my restaurant. How can we serve? Can we serve on paper plates? Do I need, if I'm feeding the homeless, do I need a clean plate every time? Can I serve it on a paper plate? Or do I have to have a styrofoam container? It's all about those relationships on how people talk to each other. And whether you're teaching 13-year-olds pre-algebra or you're working with restaurant owners or people in theaters whose livelihood is based on clients, it's all about that relationship of talking to each other, working with each other. Bring the stress down, bring it down. Let's talk. Let's see if we can figure this out. And that was the absolute joy of working in this community. I don't have to have all the answers. Our community sits down with us and asks those questions. What if? What if we went outside? Could we eat outside? Yeah. We don't want to block the sidewalk, but gee, we have some open space here in the street where cars are parked because no one's coming down. Could we use the street? Why not? Other people use the street. So then we have a great staff. And the staff said, oh, gee, let me look that up and see what other people are doing. Oh, we can use the street. How do we use the street safely? We call on folks like LSW architects. Casey, we want to use the streets. Design a parklet for us. It's that relationship when everyone gets together with the fire marshal and said, okay, how wide does this have to be? How tall? Do we need this exit? What, this and that? The architects talk to the fire marshals, who talk to the staff, who eliminate the permitting fees, who makes the ground level. The contractor builds it up. The restaurant owner says, can we put trees out here? Everyone puts their arms around the problem and solves it together. What a great opportunity. And when you think about it, that's what we do in all of our careers. We work with each other. We teach children to work on projects together. We give them the challenge and say, how do you build this little rocket to zip down the hallway using these 4 pieces of material? Bring your knowledge together, work together. And if that's what a politician is, then I absolutely love it, because we have a great staff, a great community. We have citizens who want to solve problems, whether it's clean water or roads with potholes or sidewalks and curbs or dying trees, or we need, the Marshall Pool taken care of, or we have a new development going in, or we want to save these white oak trees. And it's working together to move your community forward. That's what it's all about. How could you not love that challenge every morning? What wakes you up and what gets you out the door? Terry makes the oatmeal, makes the coffee, kicks me out the door. He's working on his projects, and I'm going to help the community. We're going to solve a new problem. So
I love that. And I love that whole sunny, wonderful attitude. It makes me feel positive about the future. What do you do though, when you get like, what they call wicked problems, this idea where you have like what we're going through in this country right now. I feel like sometimes there's a lot of chaos being created because it's trying to do the separate and conquer thing, which is if people on both sides of the table understood how much more we have in common than what is separating us. So how have you found to get to those underlying values that are shared instead of the rhetoric that makes people seem like they're on the opposite sides of the table?
There is nothing like sitting down with a person, and even during COVID, with masks on, 6, 8, 10 feet away from each other, walking on, you know how wide that sidewalk is in Esther Sharp Park, how wide the sidewalks are at Waterfront Park. There is nothing like talking to a person. Zoom doesn't really do it. When there have been a couple times when we said, you know what, emails are awful. The punctuation might be off and leans to a different tone, wrong choice of words, a capital letter in the wrong spot. Let's go for a walk. Let's get out. Let's take it outside. Whew, fresh air, even when it's raining. We can walk with masks up or far apart, but let's take it outside and let's go and let's walk it off. Let's go have that talk. And that has helped tremendously. It really does. There are some great opportunities that I wish I had taken with some folks who said, no, 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 I'm not going there. I was buying coffee. But there are people, and sometimes, bless their hearts, they are not happy people. I'm so sorry. I really am. Because after losing so many family members and good friends this last year and a half, it's an absolute shame that there are people who are so angry, they don't want to solve the problem. They just want to complain about it. Mm-hmm. They're not there to really work through it. It's like, I don't know, it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm going to blast you. We kind of had a rule when our John was growing up that we didn't make decisions after dark. When things were not going well, you took a shower, you took a bath, whatever, you went to bed, you went to sleep. We'll talk about it in the morning. We're not going to continue this conversation right now. And sometimes rest, good meal, some sleep, wake up, the sun is out, or at least it's a little daylight, makes all the difference in the world. But really going outside, and we have that wonderful opportunity here, breathe the fresh air. Let's talk.
Lowers your blood pressure too.
Yeah. And if you have a puppy, bring your puppy with you.
Well, that really lowers your blood pressure.
And then all those good hormones.
Yeah, I'm missing our black lab.
Right.
So in that case, I have to ask, when I think about what are you most proud of when you think of either as a community leader or as your tenure as mayor here, and you're running again? Yay! What are you most proud of when you think of some of those sticky things that you were like, oh, but then they ended up being a success?
Well, the things I'm working on are not done yet. And of course, my big one is the I-5 bridge. January 2018, I hadn't even hung my coat up here in the closet. Governor Inslee showed up to welcome the new mayor and asked what he could do to help me. And I said, I want to restart the I-5 bridge and I want your support. So after a few moments, he gave me some homework and I took my homework, and that was a great opportunity to meet all the other mayors of Southwest Washington. to talk to them, to meet them. And even now, after all these many years, we still get together. In fact, we started dinner again. We used to have dinner in each city. Everyone would take turns and host us. So we'd go up to Yakult or out to Washougal or up to Ridgefield and have dinner and talk, just the mayors, and share. Because our staff was doing some things that others, they didn't have staff that needed help. We could give them our research. And now we're back. We're headed out to Washougal to have a meal with Molly. But I explained to the other mayors, this I-5 bridge needs a replacement. There are individuals in every one of our cities that need to go across that bridge sometime. It's a safety issue, it's a seismic issue, it impacts freight tremendously, freight into all of our worlds. And so we talked about that, and I said, what if we pass a resolution, replace the I-5 bridge with some sort of high capacity transit? Because that's really where a lot of money is right now. And we need to take care of that extra set of cars going across there. But put that transit in a dedicated guideway, its own lane. That's it. 3 things. Our council approved that resolution, and every single council in the entire Southwest Washington approved that. Then we took it to the 3 ports. Clark College, Washington State University. We took it in and we said, Clark County councilors, we're hoping you will pass this. And they did.
Oh.
And we put all of that into a teal blue notebook, and I hand delivered it to the governor. So you sent me home with homework. I'm done with my homework.
Lovely.
Now he's given me more homework to do. So he was down a couple weeks ago as we were working, and now he wants something else. And I already got that started. So we'll be sending an update. We have 72 different businesses in Southwest Washington that their business is influenced by that bridge. And they're saying, our business needs that bridge replaced. We need our employees, our products, our services on a reliable bridge so that we're not waiting for a lift in the middle of a high flood time and blocking because there is no place for anyone to go if there's an accident on the bridge. We need to replace the bridge. So I think I'll get a fresh teal blue notebook, take it back up to the governor's.
Love it. So when you think about how fast Clark County is growing, what do you think are the most important elements of a vibrant city and growing smart? And not, for example, with sprawl. I admit that I hate sprawl.
Now, this is kind of the 20, 30-year vision, right?
Oh.
What does the city look like if we continue to work, we do the bridge, but then we want to manage growth, right? That's the phrase. And coming from a physical health background, we all know that unregulated growth is cancer, right? And it has deleterious effects on the community, right? And it's just like, well, I grew up in Los Angeles and saw firsthand. And then if I ever go down, once in a while, I go down to visit a friend or something like that, and it's just like, it's clogged. It's it's so hard to get around.
And the irony of that, of course, is that it's, even though it's in a cartoon movie, Who Killed Roger Rabbit, which is actually quite a delightful film, but it actually reflects the truth. I know some people that used to use the red car, the green car, the blue car. It used to go from the San Fernando Valley all the way to Long Beach for a nickel. And this is a fact that it used to be called Atlantic Ridgefield and Goodyear. So Arco and Goodyear got together and they bought up all of these trams because they knew that there was no profit, because they were going to run efficiently forever. So they bought them up, ripped up all the tracks, and created the freeways and the sprawl, because we know it's called induced demand. You cannot build your way out of it. So So
Well, yeah, and we all have the fossil fuel thing, and we did the wonderful thing with the port, and the oil transfer, we got clean air. So, and we've got all this wonderful technology coming on board, and people looking at infrastructure federally,
mhm,
married to
mhm.
that.
And walkability is now a measure in real estate. So obviously you can see David and I really care about this issue.
20-minute neighborhoods, absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Grid
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
arterial. So what do you think?
Well, of course, that's why we have growth management in the state of Washington.
Mhm.
And that is why there are regulations in the state of Washington. So we're not sprawling out. And so that there is planning, and we're required by law to make sure that each city, each county works together to control that. So you know that we have 190, oh my gosh, is it 191,000 people in Vancouver, depending what the final census numbers are. Over 3,000 people come into Vancouver alone every year.
Wow.
We have 6,500 housing units in the construction pipeline right now, either in pre-app or construction.
Mhm.
What we are finding in the city of Vancouver, of course, we have a little gray area outside our city limits called the urban growth area that we can grow into, according to GMA. The county right now has a small group of individuals looking at housing options of what can go in that urban growth area.
Yeah.
Now, it used to be, oh, only single family. We only want single family. The conversation is, can we have duplexes, triplexes, quads?
Affordable housing.
Not necessarily affordable. That's not part of the discussion. We would hope that there would be affordability because we have a huge workforce. Well, it wasn't that long ago, we used to have a couple cities in our county that would say, no, we don't want anything but single family. You give Vancouver all of that multifamily because we're only single family. We're only single family in our community. So, oh no, not anymore, folks. You're taking your share of the workforce. And you're taking apartments just as the rest of us. So you're going to see some changes coming on as we take a look at, and the county is taking a look at expanding duplexes, triplexes, quads.
Mhm.
But we're also going up. Land is so very precious that it is nothing to see two what we used to call grandma houses wiped out and a quad goes up, or a multifamily on a corner, because then you have facing east, facing south. Some great opportunities, but we're required to grow.
Mhm.
The state of Washington urban growth, the Growth Management Act requires us to grow. We're supposed to forecast with the county the population growth, and how do we account for that growth? And not just the residential. How are we accounting for schools, water, roads, everything? So that we are required to get plans in place for growth. And that hurts some people. They don't want change, and they don't want to see growing up. They want to be able to come home after college or after being gone to their old benchmarks, to their old houses. I lived in that house there and now it's gone and there's something else there. That's tough.
It is.
That's hard.
But we've been the fastest growing, right? The two Clark counties, ours and Nevada, have been the fastest growing counties for years. So,
Well, Ridgefield is the fastest growing city in the state of Washington.
oh, really? So, but I do know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know that you do care also about affordability. From what I remember, you were an ADU champion. So where does affordability come into this conversation? Because certainly, I mean, we know, like we are getting the overflow, I'm sure, partly from Portland,
Sure.
but it's, our job, we're graduate. I don't know. I would love to know your thought on this, but it seems like we're graduating people from university. The housing is going up, but I'm not sure how many clean jobs we have available for those graduates or for people to live and work in this community.
Yeah.
And
So that's all a part of higher education and what training we do. But then the thing that I always wonder about, being an advocate for K through 12 and having quality K through 12 education as well, the realization that often, or the reality that often the population of the school, because the density comes in, outpaces the capacity of the school. And then you have kids in outbuildings and no toilets. They have to go
Portable classrooms.
portable classrooms, exactly right.
Yeah.
And then you've got kids stacked on top of one another.
Yeah.
So that disconnect between between what the school capacity can hold. I mean, in terms of the larger planning thing, has always been said, well, geez, it seems like schools should be part of that, but it's a separate process. As well as, and then this thing about what kind of employment do we bring in, because that's what my understanding is, residential doesn't bring in enough taxes to really support that, and you need that business taxation.
So let me give you a thread.
Yeah.
Columbia River Economic Development Council is a large body that we are a part of that looks at developing the economy in our whole county. And the city of Vancouver is just one little piece of that. So who sits on that? You have the school district, well, you have a lot of private businesses, but you also have the school districts, you have the community college, and you have Mel Netzhammer, the chancellor for Washington State University at Vancouver. But you also have individuals that are at Clark Skills Center, which is called Cascadia Tech Center now. And look at how things happen. So we work with our kindergartners to give them the basic reading, writing, literature, all of that. They keep working through and they start exploration of projects and how to be a team member, working in elementary school, continuing their basics. When they get to junior high, there is some exploration of different opportunities. Because when they get to high school, then they have even more opportunities. There is a time in high school when you can go to the Cascadia Tech Center, spend half of your day in all of their different vocational opportunities. Or there's time that you can go half a day to Clark College, that now has 2 campuses and soon to be a 3rd, where you can spend half of your day exploring what's at community college. There are children, there are students who can graduate from high school on Monday and college on Tuesday with their associate's degree. Or they can graduate from high school on Monday and walk into a job on Tuesday because they have had 2 years in automotive or dental hygiene, or a number of different computer-aided drafting out at the Cascadia Tech. There are students who can barely finish their welding before they're swept away to businesses because we are in such a demand for welders. But there's also the biosciences that are coming into Clark County, and we can't build fast enough for all the biosciences. And during COVID, we had bioscientists developing testing for COVID.
That's fantastic.
And those opportunities of being a part of the COVID process, the medical research of that. And then we have the doctors that are coming from Pullman to live with families here in Clark County while they finish a residency up at Washington State University and Mel Netzhammer's program up there. Doctors who are so excited about what they see, they finish their degree and then they come back and live here permanently because they loved our side of the mountains. It's the community and the education, again, that partnership. People talking working together to solve the problems. When Vigor came in with their aluminum ships, they needed the discussion of where do you learn to weld aluminum, which is very different than welding everything else. Well, that would be Clark College.
Ah,
This is very
So
encouraging.
again, it's that relationship. Before you need it, build the relationship. Do you know who to pick up the phone and what extension to dial? Can you come to a meeting? We have some individuals who want to come and talk to you about moving their entire headquarters here. When Banfield Pet Hospital was looking to come off the Banfield in Portland and build their headquarters over here, they bring all of their physicians and their assistants from throughout the United States, from Petco, the big mothership, Mars, the big mothership, into Portland, over to the headquarters for training and updates and everything else. What do they do with all of their old equipment that they're done practicing on? Oh, we have the Humane Society just down the road that needs an x-ray machine for those broken legs on puppies and kittens. How do we train those new vets at Cascadia Tech Center, at Clark College, at Washington State University, that come right back in to the mothership? It's all about relationships and working together to solve those problems.
That is very encouraging. Okay. David, do you mind talking about, I want to know how Mayor Ann thinks of this and if she's even heard about this. Can you talk a little bit about this whole, big outside builders coming in, buying up whole neighborhoods that you told me about?
Oh, there was an article in the Atlantic regarding Wall Street with the liquid capital that they have, seeing this as the pandemic as an opportunity to use cash and come in and buy out whole neighborhoods. Like one of the neighborhoods is being developed, right? And houses are for sale. They come in and they outbid us, regular buyers, middle class, let's say, and they buy up the neighborhoods and then they rent them out. So people don't have an out because they have so much liquid cash now that they jack the price up $50,000 or whatever in the bidding process. So that that seemed like a predatory process. I mean, that would be a good word to describe that. And I was wondering what cities and communities can do to kind of protect themselves from that kind of taking of housing and flipping because I think that's about the only thing left. Our 401ks are gone. But the building equity in houses is one of the ways that people gain wealth and pass that on in legacy. So it's that was really disturbing. That process is going on. I haven't heard about it in Washington yet, but it's happening a lot on the East Coast.
Well, I know that as I set up a booth at Farmers Market, and when I'm not planting flowers or planting trees or cutting a ribbon or doing something, I'll sit on a stool down there and talk to people. And they'll look at my sign and say, oh, well, what can you tell me about this person? And I'm that person. And so I'll ask them, well, what can you tell me about you? Why are you here? We just moved in. We just sold our place down in XYZ.
Yeah.
And we moved up here. We absolutely love it. Da, 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 da. Did you notice you have a problem out here with this bridge? Warn me, aren't you? There are people I know for a fact that sell their home, come up here, pay cash, and they have money left over.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that there are individuals who were born and raised here, went to school here, got their college degrees here, and cannot live here because they don't have a job that pays enough to pay to buy the house.
Right.
That's where it's at, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And where their parents' home was, if their parents wanted to sell their home, it was nothing. Someone was complaining to me that she had to lower the price $20,000. She bought it 3 years ago. She doubled the price, bought it for $350,000, wanted $700,000 for it. and was upset that she only could sell it for $675 in 3 years. There will be people who are listening to you and say, that's the fair market.
It doesn't seem fair.
No, it doesn't seem very fair. And
Well,
so,
that's the laissez-faire.
yeah,
Regard,
which is
right.
fair.
But there's this, one of the things that regulations of some sort are supposed to do is to kind of mitigate and slow down that inequality, right? And
we don't have those regulations in the state of Washington.
okay.
And we don't have rent control in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
That is a state regulation and they're not here.
Can we do anything within the city in terms of creating a certain percentage that's affordable when new things are being built?
Nope.
Wow.
Unless they're asking for tax exemptions. And then we have a formula. And you may have heard that we have been working on the multi-family tax exemption and percentages and duration of time, 8, 10, 12 years, how many at certain levels of income, and then what is the area median income. And so we were, by state regulations, having to be the AMI of HUD, the HUD region. And the HUD region included us with Portland. So we have asked for a waiver and the conversation to take us out of that HUD region so that we could have our own AMI, which was 23,000 less. And then we would have more of an impact of what we could require over here if you were asking for a multifamily tax exemption. But right now, those tax exemptions are in only certain parts of the city. So the downtown section and Fourth Plain, where we wanted more affordability, we were getting very few individuals with affordability. We were getting the housing and that 8-year tax exemption, then it comes back on to the tax rolls. But other than that, we really have very few options.
What would you like to see take place? And is there anything people can do as just concerned citizens to sort of push?
Well, we want to finish that multifamily tax exemption discussion. We have not finished that, and it's on our 72-step work plan.
Oh my goodness.
So that we can finish it. It's called the MFTE program refresh. But we also, by voter approval, we have the Affordable Housing Fund. The voters approved this several years ago, that they would pay a portion of their property taxes for that fund. We took the fund and broke it into different percentages for different categories, and we distribute those funds out to programs that build affordable housing. So we're using voter money for this developer. Andy, we want you to build affordable housing. How many units can you do it? And he'll cobble together funds, use our piece in that cobble. Is that a noun? And
It works.
build some affordable housing on Fourth Plain. Or we'll use that fund to give it to people who will help a family rebuild or put that new water heater in or rebuild that roof so they'll stay in their house.
Nice.
And will prevent them from homelessness. So we have lots of different groups on that particular piece. We just passed a 0.1% instead of taking your property or your sales tax and shipping it back up to Olympia. We're keeping it down here.
Great.
For affordable housing.
Oh, that's great.
And we kept asking Olympia to send us back our money. And so when a state law was passed and we said, oh, great, we're going to keep it. We're not sending it to you, so you don't have to send it back. And so we're keeping that for affordable housing. And now it takes us back into that conversation with the county. How do we build affordable housing? Because actually the city doesn't build. The county doesn't build. We collect the money and then we ask organizations and contractors and builders, Vancouver Housing Authority, for example, do you need any money? Can you build affordable housing for us? People think Vancouver Housing Authority belongs to the city. It's not. It's an 82-year-old program that was started World War II and is just very, very wonderful about pulling federal, state, and local money together, buying a piece of property, building affordable housing, and keeping it affordable, passing all of their federal and state audits, and managing affordable housing in the city. And now they've expanded outside into the county a little bit too. So we don't build, we provide the money, collect the money, and give the opportunity out for that to happen. And that's been very successful. Vancouver Housing Authority is preparing a video to kind of do a drone shot of all of the different affordable housing that they have throughout the area. And while it might have started with the workforce housing up in the Heights during World War II for the Kaiser shipbuilders, it has expanded. And so that beautiful piece way out in East Vancouver that has mixed income housing. So you don't have everyone in the low income bracket. You have mixed incomes in there. So
much better.
Just like in a neighborhood.
That's right.
Yeah.
So speaking of Fourth Plain, what's exciting about that? What's different about
it? Well, okay. Heading east, it used to be the old Fred Meyer, now is a Walmart market. Just keep going a little bit and used to be Warrior Field. Warrior Field was the field for the old school. They bulldozed the school and it was empty for the longest time. We built Fire Station 2 right in the middle. Kept the maple tree.
Indeed, thank you.
The one beautiful maple tree on the west side of that fire station. Gorgeous, absolutely.
Yes, thank you. You know that was me. You kissed me.
Yes.
I got a kiss on the cheek for the mayor for saving that tree. It was worth it.
That is a wonderful asset. It truly is. On the south side, 1/3 will be a new school. On the north side will be the Fourth Plain Commons. Oh my gosh. So the bottom of it will be the community room and commercial kitchen. And I'll come back to that. On the top of it is residential. Mm-hmm. On the outside, of course, there'll be some parking in the back, but also a plaza area where we'll have the farm, kind of a secondary farmer's market.
Wonderful.
That community room with offices for the community on Fourth Plain to use. And that commercial kitchen to teach and to use as an entrepreneurial incubator. Think of all of those wonderful food mobiles that we have sprinkled around.
Mm-hmm. And very international on Fourth Plain.
Yes, yes. And you need a commercial kitchen for some of that. This will be an excellent opportunity. We have chefs lined up who are so excited about going in and teaching what they love. We lost home ec in many of our schools. And a lot of people said, oh, well, shop and home ec, no big things. Everyone's headed to college. No, that's not the case. How do you make popcorn when your microwave goes out? You put it in a pan with a little bit of oil, hold the lid on, put your oven mitt on and shake, 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 and you have popcorn. there are people who need to learn to cook and who love to cook. And the two of them will come together. They will have Vancouver Housing Authority running the residential part up there. Fourth Plane Forward was a organic group of businesses that came together with some city support staff who are moving together with all of the international businesses up and down Fourth Plane to help bind them together. We have the Vine, C-Trans Vine on Fourth Plane, but we're also looking at Fourth Plane for safety reasons, because right now it has the dubious honor of being very dangerous to pedestrians. So we need to redo that and improve that area so that it is safer for everyone. So you're not running across Fourth Plane to catch the bus. How do we make it safer? So we're excited about that. But if you move on down the line, you have a number of businesses, you have a number of affordable housing opportunities, new structures going up. You have a great opportunity for the core of this city, the International District, to thrive, and we're so excited for them. I can't wait for the International Festival to come back. We missed that opportunity.
Oh, yes, yes.
But every other Saturday, art in the park.
Oh,
So Fourth Plane Forward and LULAC and a couple other groups get together and teach art in the park at Evergreen Park. It's on my calendar. I think we started at 4 o'clock, and the children just kind of come in, and we made little clouds with popsicle rainbows and little googly eyes. We did dancing with the big skirts that have 15 yards of fabric. Do you know how hard it is to dance with it and swing it around and make figure eights with your hands? And I was getting pretty good. Talk about your workout. But we also did watercolors and a number of different things. And I met a young man who's in 8th grade. I met his little brother. And he said, well, really, my brother's the artist. And I said, well, can I see some of his artwork? And so he gave me one of his artwork. So I ran it off, black and white. I'll take it back to Art in the Park so the children can color it, because some children need something to color. And I've commissioned this young man to be the artist in residence and teach
that's adorable.
art to the little ones, because he truly is an artist. He has a lot of skill. It is so very exciting.
That's so wonderful. And I know we do have some things like complete streets and streetscape design study plans. So we have some of these lovely outlines.
Yes, you do.
And then we have young artists at 8 years old that can actually start teaching. I mean,
yes. Well, he's in 8th grade. He's headed to Fort Vancouver High School, I think. So it would be nothing to take some of his artwork and do a complete street, or to do a mural, slow down in the middle. You know, some way we have our koi fish painted in the street over by a VSAA that Abby Brown did. Street calming, slow down. We have a mural in the middle of the street. Well, this young man, his artwork is so incredible. I could see having him sketch it out with chalk, and we could go in and paint the mural over there to slow people down. A mural painting.
I will volunteer to do that. And you know, I actually had an idea to do that exact thing on the corner of 18th. So East 18th and Branch, right before Fourth Plane.
Yes.
Because the same thing now, it's just a 4-way stop, but the idea of doing that placemaking, and
yes,
I would love to do something like that, or something that kind of harkens back to our history in some way that makes people go, you know, nobody wants to speed going through Officers Row. We love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you have something to look at.
Yes.
And whether it's koi fish or this young gentleman's artwork, we know we have to paint it over every couple of years. But what a great way to honor a young artist.
Oh, love it.
Putting his work so cars can drive over it, but with a purpose, to slow down.
People are
enjoy.
walking and looking at
Yes.
it and bicycling by it.
Yes, art in the park.
Wonderful.
And that's going on now?
It is every other Friday, every other Saturday at 4 o'clock, I think. So
And what
I'll
part-
make sure I will send that to you when I find, it's on the Fourth Plane Forward website, and it's called Art in the Park.
Wonderful.
And they have it all set up at Evergreen Park, and you just come.
Okay.
You don't need to register. You just walk over and you sing, you dance, you watercolor, you cut paper out, you paint popsicle sticks. You put googly eyes on things.
Sounds so wonderful. Well, this has been, I have to say, you make me happy, and I feel really positive about the future when I listen to you.
Oh.
I feel like you're really taking the full spectrum of all of our challenges into consideration, the macro view, while you're really taking the time to be on the individual level and learn. So we are so grateful for you. And thank you for your time today. Is there anything that you want people to know that maybe they don't know about you or about what's happening?
No, but oh my gosh, there are so many things we could be talking about. Just understand that we try very hard not to be the government versus the community. We
Right.
very much are in partnership. We have regulations. We're in the forever business. We're always going to be here. We are required to be here. We're required to follow the rules. Sometimes the rules aren't a lot of fun, but there are regulations that we must follow. But we always appreciate the opportunity of our community asking, how can we work together to solve this problem? And they are researching, they're Googling, they're reading books and newspapers, they travel the world, they see things that we don't see, and they bring it home and they share it. And that's the exciting part about learning how to solve problems and keep your community moving forward.
Not so different than 8th grade math.
No, it isn't.
Thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you.
Say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you.
Hi, Dave.
And we'll be back with more CoolCouve. So stay curious and stay cool.